Hey guys, Wags with Ironman 4x4. Thanks for jumping into the video. You and I are gonna get these premium side steps installed on our 3rd gen Toyota Tundra. Now when these massive steps show up, you're gonna basically have 4 packages. You're gonna have left step, right step, and 2 cardboard boxes with all your hardware in it. I like to get everything unwrapped and laid out so we can do a quick inventory, make sure we have everything, and then you can kind of see where stuff's gonna go. For all intents and purposes, we're doing this in the shop, and I'm gonna do it on a lift so that you guys can see what we're doing, because we gotta have room for the camera crew to get in there and light it and show you. But my preference for doing side steps and rock sliders is I like doing it on the ground. I use a floor jack and a couple jack stands. The easiest way is if you have a friend. This is a great 2-person job if you have access. Now Toyota put some of these plastic clips in the frame, and we're gonna have to pop some of these off so that we can get some of the bolts and mounting hardware through. Normally, if you don't know which ones you need to pop out, you can set your step up here in the mount and then mark them with a pin which ones need to come out. So we're on the front right side of our Tundra, and this square one right under this mount, we're gonna pop that off. So get yourself a pry tool. These lay real flat, so either use plastic or a steel one and pop them off. I like to keep them. I don't like to break them, because when we're done, some of these are gonna go back on. That way we don't get a bunch of road grime and dirt and water in our frame rail. Now right directly behind this outer one, we've got another cap on the inside of the frame rail. This needs to come out so we can get our through bolt pushed all the way through. We'll set that aside. Now working our way back. From there, you've got this grounding wire right here to the chassis. You've got a round clip and then another square one. This one right here is coming out. And then on the back side, right up against your gas tank, you've got another one that's square. Now that we've got this middle location out and the one on the backside popped out, we're gonna go here. This one we're gonna put back. This is just an access hole that we need. So I'm gonna pop that out, set it aside. Now we'll go here to the 3rd rear position, pop that out, and there is no access on the backside of this. So we're gonna feed a bolt plate through this middle location and have it pop out here. Now before we get too far into the install, I want to get these shims set up, and there's 2 ways to do it. You've got a little shorty shim, and that is going to go right here on the mount. And the reason why Ironman provided this for you is if you look at your frame rail underneath, the way Toyota welded it together to make it a full boxed chassis, there's a gap from the outside to the inside. Let me show you. So you're gonna take this shim in the front and it'll sit right here. And now you've got the same elevation front to back. We're gonna do that for the front mount and the rear mount. Now there's a couple ways of attaching these shim plates. We provide you with a self-tapper. I don't really like the self-tapper. I don't wanna be drilling holes in my frame if I don't have to. So I just use some RTV or Sikaflex or some sort of elastomeric that you can glue this in, because it's not gonna go anywhere. Once we get it all clamped down together, it's gonna be in place. So I'll just put a couple little dabs here, here, and here. Do the same thing in the back. And there we go. Now we can set these guys right in here like this. Put this right in the back. And we'll give that a little bit of time to set up. Now one nice feature on the Ironman 4x4 side steps is that the bottom mount that attaches here, it's actually a slot and not just a center hole. Why is that important? Because we can hang all of our nut plates and then mock up these bolts with a few threads so they hang down like this. And then when we grab that side step, we can just slot it right over. One person can do it, then you can kind of tighten it down a little bit. Makes it really, really easy. It'll hang in place where you get the rest of the hardware tightened down. So first things first, you have 3 of these. These are called nut plates. They're on this long sparkler stick. But if you undo the bolt, set that aside. That's what that looks like. It's a welded nut on the back of this big plate, which kind of disperses and spreads the load. We need to fit this right here. So what I do is I kind of look at where are we going in. Well, we're gonna go through this access hole just like that, and it's gotta hit the bottom. So I'll look at this and go, okay, need to bend it up. So I'll start at the bottom. I'll get this first bend as close as I can. Now that I'm here, then I'll get my height like that. I'll grab a set of wire cutters. Those seem to work the best. And then I'll just bend it straight out. Put a 90 so it looks like that. I don't know if you can tell. It's gonna take a little bit of, ingenuity on your part, but you can feed it in like that. I'll also mention, you don't have to go through this location. You can go through the back here if that's easier for you. Now you can see right here, I guess I did an okay job because this all lined up. Now I'll grab my hardware. Once you've got it lined up, hold on to your sparkler handle because you've got to try to feed this bolt in and catch a thread. But once you get it, go ahead and tighten it down about halfway, just like that, and then we can let it hang. That way, when we go to hang the step, that slot will just go right on top of that washer, and it'll hang. I'm gonna grab our other two and work our way down the frame rail. All right, I got another bolt plate here ready to go, so I've moved back to our rear mount. This is the middle, this is the rearmost part, and then this is the access hole that we prepped earlier in the middle. So I kind of hold it up like there. I can see the angle that my bend needs to be, maybe just a little bit more. Cool. So now that I've got this here, I kind of grab and hold where the height is. I'll grab my cutters here, and then I'm just gonna put my thumb under where I'm bending and just twist, and I'll come out 90. Okay, we'll feed that through. I'll grab my bolt again, and then this is the part that takes a little bit of finesse because you're trying to get it to grab that thread. All right, here's a little cheap pro tip. I do it this way. Grab a 17mm nut, drop it down a socket like that. If you have a shorty socket, it works best. You want as much of the threaded shank on this showing. But if you put it on a gun, then you can actually just slowly spin it, and it makes catching a thread a ton easier. And there you go, it's that fast. Last nut plate needs to go here in this location. I'm gonna feed it through the same window as we did for the middle location. I'm just gonna hold it up, find my angle. So that is what you're looking for this location right here. Slide it down, put my finger there, there we go. After you get this nut plate in and this bolt hung, we need to snip off this wire so that it's out of the way, because once we hang the side step, this will be covered up. So I'm just gonna take some wire cutters here, get that out of the way, and then that just pops inside the frame rail, so we're good. All right, if you're doing this by yourself, be careful, because it's not the easiest thing in the world, but you can see I've got my 3 bolts and they're loose. I've got the washers hanging down towards me, and then I'm gonna kind of hold it like this, and I'll swing the front mount in place over that bolt, and then I'll work back here, nice and easy. Haha, look at that. All right, so now it's kind of sitting in place. Then I'll grab a gun and I'll zip these down, get them snug, but don't lock them down tight. We still need some play to get the rest of the hardware in. All right, that just keeps them in place. That's all we need. For this front right location, you're gonna wanna take your pry bar here and pop out your brake line mounting bracket. And we're gonna push that up and out of the way just a little bit, because these brake lines need to go up and over that mount. Another good trick, if you have them, is clamps. If you're doing it by yourself, I highly recommend it. So I'm gonna throw some clamps here. Make sure you're not putting your clamp foot in the way where you're gonna need some access. But the idea is to get them up, about as high as you can that your clamps will allow. But then if you lift and clamp at the same time, it's gonna kind of pull everything together. So I've got a couple clamps. I'm gonna do one here in the front and one in the back. All right, now we need to grab 2 of our bolt plates that are on these little sparkler stick wires. We have one location on the front mount at the top and one at the bottom, and you're gonna need to use these bolt plates for that. There's actually a round hole in the back of the frame with one of these little caps, so just pop it out. And now I've got the bolt plate through. Ironman included these little retainers, these little plastic nylon retainers. That's what these are for. So it's kind of a tight fit, but you can spin them on, and they're basically just like a retaining nut. You can use them if you want, you don't have to. Got my washer on there. Get my split washer in my nut too. Cool, there we go. All right, top one's done. Now we've got to hit this lower location, so I'll grab another bolt plate. Or I'm gonna go through the same spot with this bolt plate, but I'm trying to figure out, that's gotta go down and over. All right, got that bottom one through. Get this nut on there. If I failed to mention, this is all 17 millimeter hardware, so if you've got a 17 millimeter ratcheting wrench and a 17 socket, you'll be good to go. I'm gonna cut these wires down so we can push them back in. And then that'll pop in. Same thing right here. And then we can push those in, frame rail. All right, now we can put that round cap back in so that we don't get a bunch of gunk in there. All right, if you're working in a shop like I am on a lift, I'm gonna use some floor jacks here, these pull jacks. And if you're in your garage, you can use your floor jack and a block, and you wanna put a lot of up pressure that'll help push everything nice and tight. The tightening procedure of this, and even just for installing your hardware up on the top, I like to have them, under pressure. Not so much that it lifts the truck off the jack, but I mean, almost. Once we have this all pushed up nice and tight, then we'll tighten the hardware on the outside face of the frame. And once that's all locked down, then we can tighten everything up from underneath. So I've got these braced up with these jacks. And just as a reminder earlier, we put those shims in here with the RTV. You just want to double check, make sure those haven't walked on you at all. I'm gonna grab that last bolt plate that I had, because on the rear mount up at the top, we have one more location that we need to feed that into. For this last bolt plate, we're gonna go to this middle location on the rear mount, and I've kind of folded my little wire, my fish wire through like that. There we go. I'm gonna drop the washers on this, flat washer, split washer, 17 mil nut. Again, don't push on it too hard because it's barely held in place. Just want to try to catch that thread. Don't let it slide through. Sweet. Now I'm gonna grab my wire cutters and we will clean up all these little sparkler fish wires back here. Put a bend in it, then you can make your cut and it'll pop back into the frame. All right, run, 2, 3, pretend you're strong. Just never give up hope. All right, I've got this little frame plug cap. I'm gonna pop that right back into place. And that'll keep grime and gunk and all kinds of other junk out. You have 3 of these through bolts with this big backing plate, this big giant nut plate. We gave you 3, you actually only need 2 for this side so you can keep the other one as a present. And then we're gonna go to this rear mount, the front, so I guess we call it the middle, is what we've been calling it. And you're gonna put this bolt over the top and push it through with that split washer and that square flat washer. And you can see it pops out the frame side back here. This is the tricky part. You gotta feed this plate up around your fuel tank. And I think the easiest way is to start from the back. Just try to look in between the plate and the bolt the best you can, and then slide that plate back and forth until you can try to land it on the threads of the nut. I'm on it now. The other thing you can do too is if you feel like you don't have enough length on your bolt, we can tighten this 17 at the top that we just put on, and as we tighten it down, it'll kind of draw everything together and let you, hook a thread. Okay, so if you're looking directly up here at your frame rail and the mount, you can still see a bit of an air gap. So I'm gonna grab a 17 ratcheting wrench. I'm gonna put it on this bolt plate that we put through earlier. I'm gonna start to tighten that down. We have a lot of up pressure because of our pull jacks, which is really good, but now we need to suck everything up against that outer face. That'll put us in a much better position to grab that through bolt and that big nut plate in the middle location. So I've got my 17 long arm of the law ratcheting wrench here, and I'm watching the back side of that nut plate, and you'll see that bolt as it draws down. I mean, there's a lot of flex in these frames. So I'm gonna keep tightening until I see 3 threads. Cool. That's good. If you keep going, I mean, you could literally kind of, you know, start to really crush your frame, and you don't want to do that. Cool, let's move up to the front. All right, we've got another through bolt set up. So we're gonna push this bolt right through here. That's the rear side of the front mount location. Pops out here. Kind of start it up and down. You can grab a thread like that. Awesome, then we'll twist it. And there you go. Grab yourself a 17 and we'll start locking it down. And same thing here as we did in the back. You can see as the bolt comes through, we're really clamping down on that frame rail. And we're gonna go about 3 threads. And now we can transition to this one right here. I'm gonna do the lower first. As I'm tightening, I'm looking for air gaps from where the mount of the steps hitting the frame rail. All right, this top one's slow going, but we'll just take our time, get it tightened down. Okay, on this front right side with the brake lines, you just want to put a slight little bend in them, just a little bit of pressure. They move pretty easy. We're gonna bend them away from the step mount, pop it right back in. There we go, we look up, we've got about 1/8 of an inch of gap in there, so we know they're not gonna rattle. Good to go. All right, I've got a 17 socket on my impact. I've got 1, 2, and 3 on the bottom side. We had left these loose. The jack stands are still under pressure, so we'll go ahead and lock them down. Awesome. All right, let's lower our pole jacks. Make sure if you're working on a lift, you're watching your mounting points, because if the truck came up off the ground, you want to make sure it goes back down. Doesn't come crashing down on you. Cool, we'll get these out of the way. All right, everything's installed. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. It's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of hardware in this kit. I like to take a wrench and go and hand tight everything, make sure that the split washers haven't opened up on you or something like that. Also, another good reminder as a good check is these tread plates are bolted to the side step, and it's all 10 mil hardware, so grab a 10 mil wrench or a socket, make sure everything's nice and snug. You wanna make sure nothing loosened up on you. After you've done that, you're done. This looks great. Let's get the truck on the ground. All right, we got these premium side steps all bolted on. This 3rd gen Tundra Crew Max, they look excellent. If you wanna know more about them or pick up a set for yourself, go to Ironman4x4America.com. We'll hook you up over there.